Hi guys, Tom here, and this is 5 things that you need to know about St. Francis of Assisi. Number 1, Francis was named after France. It's a bit weird really. His dad went to France and really liked it, so called him Francis. It's kind of like being called Wales or Venezuela. It's an unusual way of naming people really, isn't it? Anyway, Francis was named after France. And his family were incredibly rich. His dad was a really wealthy businessman who travelled all over and made a huge amount of money. And Francis lived a life of great excess. He was really known as a party animal. Number 2, Francis fought in 2 wars and was eventually captured and held as a prisoner of war for over 12 months, while his captors tried to force a ransom out of his father. Number 3, during his imprisonment, Francis began to grow stronger in his faith. And after he was released from prison, he began to see how he could find God more clearly in his life and what God was calling him to do. He recognised that he needed to live a more simple life, so began to work with the poorer people and serve other people more readily. Unfortunately, this angered his father, who saw him as wasting his money. So Francis took the bold decision and moved away from his family, never speaking to his father again, instead choosing a life of simplicity. Number 4, Francis then received a vision of Christ, telling him to rebuild his church. Francis slightly misunderstood this, thinking that it meant to rebuild the church in the village where he lived. So he started fixing the brickwork and sorting the painting out, until he eventually realised that Christ was calling him to fix the church as a whole. The church was, at that time, very much centred on wealth and power, and Francis recognised that this isn't what Jesus had called people to do. So he began to live a simple life, calling people to live more simply, and drawing in thousands of followers who were called to this way of life that was so much more easily accessible. You no longer needed to be wealthy and important to be a part of the church. You simply needed to live out the call that Christ gave us all. Francis ended up with thousands of followers, and these people became known as the Franciscans. Number 5, Francis loved nature, seeing nature as a reflection of God and knowing that he could explore God further through nature. He preached to everyone and even used to preach to animals. People thought he was mad, but we now recognise that he saw an importance of sharing God's love with all of creation, not just with some people. Francis is an inspiration to millions of people around the world today, showing us how we should live a simple life, caring for the planet, caring for all the people we meet and all of the things in God's creation. So important in today's society. So important, in fact, that in 2013, when the new Pope was elected, he chose to take the name of Francis, inspired by the way that Francis had lived his life and feeling that that was a call that he should echo in his papacy. There's really so much to know about Francis. We could do 100 things that you need to know about Francis and still not go through all of them. So I'd encourage you this week to echo what Francis did in his life and look for ways in which you can care for God's creation, but also to research a little bit about him, because there's really a huge amount that you could find out about him. That's all from me today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you really soon.